Warchant Gameday, it is great to be with you as we broadcast live from Hotel Indigo. Top floor, as always, overlooking beautiful Doak Campbell Stadium, Bobby Bowden Field, and the intramural lots, if you will, as they begin to fill up. Florida State Duke, we get a top 20 matchup here, and obviously I don't think we projected it this way, Tom Lang. Coming into the season, we thought Duke would be a good team. They won 9 games a year ago. We didn't know that they would knock off Clemson to start the year and kind of set the tone for the college football season in week 1 with that victory. They have since lost a game to Notre Dame in the final seconds, but the point is they'll play with you now. This is a team that is as sound as they come defensively. They may not have the same level of athletes. Certainly we don't think they do as Florida State, but they're going to be where they're supposed to be. They tackle well. They are physical up front, and they're senior laden. That's the thing with Duke is they got a lot of guys that came in, have a Texas A&M transfer at corner who projects to the NFL. They got a linebacker, a defensive lineman whose dad played in the league forever. A lot of different guys, and I think it's 9 seniors on that side of the ball, and graduate seniors, redshirt seniors, a lot of guys that have played a lot of football, so they're experienced. And I bring that up because they've been in some big moments, and they've had opportunities. Not quite like this one, though, where I think we'll have a sold-out crowd tonight at Doak. It'll be loud, primetime, ABC, the world watching. Should be a good, stiff test for Florida State, one they're going to have to be fundamentally sound in order to get through.
Yeah, an awful lot of veteran presence. They're well coached, they're buttoned up, they're detail sound, they're all of those things. But this season, even though they're veteran laden, they've only played 1 true road game, and that was at UConn. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different than it was at UConn. So I look forward to see what Florida State comes out looking like. You know, there's been a bit of a crescendo to this 3-game homestand. You start with Virginia Tech off of a bye week. It's more about what are we going to do offensively versus what we've done in those first 4 games of the season before the bye week. And then for Syracuse, you knew they were banged up on the offensive side of the ball. If the defense showed up to play last week, everything was going to be A-okay. Even if the offense sputtered a little bit, you were not in danger. This is a better test. This is a more comprehensive test, even if Duke doesn't have their starting quarterback. But Florida State emotionally should be in a wonderful place for this game. They should match the intensity that we're going to see inside there, which is, I think, without going back and checking my notes, this is going to be the loudest a Duke game has ever been in Doak Campbell Stadium.
You don't have to check your notes for that one, buddy. I think you're right.
Probably true.
I would also tell you that I think in terms of being in a good place, I think you're talking about both physically and mentally. Florida State's in a really good place right now.
Don't be overhyped for this moment either. As crazy as that sounds.
It's a healthy team, but it's a team that's had a chance to obviously not just rest up. 2 weeks ago was the bye. Last week, obviously, a comfortable win and stress-free. And they're getting some guys back. And that's the other thing about this. So Florida State has not really been healthy along the offensive line this year. It'll be interesting to see which 5 play today because I think that's a critical part of this. Hopefully, Bless Harris is back. We'll see. We don't know. Our own Ira Chaffel and Corey Clark are in there, and I assume at some point we'll get an update on that information, who's going through walkthroughs and who isn't.
Yeah, the expectation is that Bless was going to be available today. We expected, of course, that Johnny Wilson was going to return today. Mike Norvell said as much on Monday about those 2 players, one on the offensive line, one at receiver. The national report this morning from College Game Day confirmed that Johnny Wilson will be a go tonight. But Darius Washington is somebody who went down in the second half of last week's game.
Yeah.
And yet, in the observable part of practice, when we could tape who was coming in and walking in, I didn't expect to see Darius in full pads on Tuesday and Wednesday, but there he was. So is Darius Washington available today? Could it be that the Florida State offensive line is finally healthy 1 through 8?
Wouldn't that
be the first time since last year?
Last year, yeah. And even then.
Because Robert Scott wasn't hardly,
and remember, Turnentine ended up having to play, and so we had a lot of guys. If they can just get that group solidified, you feel like you'll see a little bit more consistency in the run game. That's been a bit of the problem. And tonight, the reason I bring that up is because this is the whole game. Duke can only win this game by winning field position, controlling clock, and playing great defense. That's the only way they can win this game. They do not have enough offense. Now, the one caveat to that comment is that Duke is a very physical team that wants to run the ball. They want to run the ball if they could, if they had their druthers, 40-plus times with their backs. And they got a good one in Waters. He's a strong player. If they can line up and run on you, then you're going to have a problem because you're going to have to walk people up, and then obviously at that point they'll try to throw over top. That's the only time they take shots, is if they get you to have to cheat with your safeties and they play the numbers game.
Yeah, correct. After the Southern Miss game, Mike Norvell was on the podium afterward, and he said, I see that we're 4 of 14 on 3rd down. But but we were 4 or 5 on fourth down. And I count those as combined statistics.
Yeah.
I didn't like that very much against the Southern Miss opponent that's outgunned. But if you're Duke tonight here in this building,
that's exactly
combine those two categories. It's not just about third down efficiency for Duke. If they can get it into 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, they should go for it. They should not be Dino Babers and play scared. They should play downhill and go for it. This is a chance for Duke to steal a win tonight. Like if you think about it from their perspective, their quarterback's not 100%. Who knows if he's going to give it a go or not? Either way, if they were to lose this game, their hopes to get to Charlotte are not dead and buried. They still have Louisville in front of them on the schedule. They still have North Carolina on the schedule. So it would be a bonus for them if they could steal it tonight. That's why I think they should go for broke, and that's probably why you'll see tricks and maybe some 4th down aggressiveness out of Elko, because the more the clock ticks when their offense, Duke's offense, is on the field, the better off they are. Keeping our offense off the field is the best way to defend it.
When we do the weekly show, the JCS Monday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday together, on Fridays we have Lee Sterling come on, and he brought up the fact that he thought that Duke would be a team that really played a slow tempo.
Yeah.
If Riley Leonard were playing, at times they would play up tempo, but they don't really want to, especially when they're outmatched athletically. They want to steal and shorten games. They want to, and you talk about stealing a game. That's one of the ways you can do it is you make it a minimal possession game so that your talent doesn't get more at bats. And at that point, if you're Duke, the way you want to play this game, 8-9 possessions, the way Florida State wants to play it, 11 to 14 possessions.
Yeah.
And with the new clock rules, those possessions really matter. So get off the field on third down. Hasn't always been our forte, but if we can get off the field on third down, then you get those possessions back. Your talent tends to win out the more it has opportunity.
And it's been a trend that we've been able to do that early the last 2 games. 3 straight 3-and-outs to start against Virginia Tech, and Syracuse didn't do hardly anything last week at all. So if you can continue that, then you start to put the way of the game, the momentum of the game, the pace of the game into your favor. But again, if I'm Duke and let's say I'm on my own 38-yard line and it's 4th and a half a yard, I'm going for it. I don't care that it's on my side of the 50. It's a quarterback sneak. It's something short because then I can take another 1.5 to 2 minutes off the clock at worst. That's the worst case scenarios. Then I'll be punting from the 50 and there's 1 fewer minute, 2 fewer minutes on the clock. That's 1 fewer possession for Florida State.
We're both Bucs fans, and we go back to that 02 Super Bowl, not the most recent Super Bowl, but that Super Bowl, if you recall, we used to say about the offense before Gruden got there, this defense is so good, just get me some first downs and win possessions, time of possession, let the defense rest up, we'll punt from the 50, we're going to win the game.
Yeah.
And that's what Duke wants to do, right, is play great defense, get some first downs, flip field position, run clock, stay in it, put game pressure on Florida State into the second half. There's no doubt the pressure is on Florida State. They're the higher-ranked team. They're heavily favored. It's homecoming. They're at home, obviously. And, if you get into this third quarter and all of a sudden your offense has sputtered some and possessions are minimal, you could see where the stress of that could have a deleterious effect against you. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's the way Duke wants to play it.
Well, and that's exactly how the Notre Dame game happened. Notre Dame's up 10-0 in that football game. A lot of their drives in the first half are short-circuited by pre-snap penalties, by holding penalties. They get behind the chains, and that's not a dynamic offense. You could look at that USC final score, and you'd say, wow, Notre Dame hung 40 on USC. Everybody hangs 40 on USC. That's not an impressive feat at all. But Notre Dame was not as dynamic. Florida State is, and that's the test for Duke today. That's the different thing. So they passed the Clemson test because Clemson fumbled twice inside the 5-yard line, had 3 possessions inside the 10, came away with 0 total points in those situations.
Not only came away with 0 points, they gave up a 98-yard fumble return for a touchdown.
Correct. And that is that's a Clemson offense that we would call above average at best. At best?
Yeah.
Notre Dame's is not dynamic. They don't have any receivers. They're a little bit slower. They've got a good tight end over the seam. But Duke has not seen an offense quite like this. Even though we are hypercritical of what we are offensively and our inconsistencies, we're still averaging 40 points a game. And it may be about boom or bust for this offense, but we are still hitting explosive plays at an alarming rate. We are producing at a level that Duke has not seen. So let that paper play out on the field. Let's see what Duke does against an offense that's a hell of a lot more dynamic than anything they've seen so far.
You mentioned the points per game total for Florida State. It is at 40, trending upwards. FSU has scored at least 30 points, as we all know, in 12 straight games. That's the longest active streak in the ACC, second longest streak in the nation, and the second longest streak in ACC history, trailing only us. 2017 back in the day, and 2012 through 2014, which that team was obviously phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you could talk about some of the best teams in Florida State history, and we're approaching that category in terms of prolific offense. Now, how we get there is weird, and it is frustrating.
Different.
So I'm prepared to be frustrated a little bit tonight because I think Duke is good enough to get you to have some 3 and outs. It's going to happen. You play enough football, it's going to happen, especially the other guys are on scholarship too. But we are prone to that anyhow. Boom and bust. The explosive play rate is one of the best in the country. And the hundreds on first down run rates, so that's not.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're used to 2nd and 9 an awful lot this season. Too much for our own liking. But you wonder if what we've seen out of the running game the last 2 weeks, which is I think they went for 250 against Virginia Tech. They went for over 150 last week. Is that a trend? You'll find out tonight because if you can run on Duke, that is now a real thing that you can talk about. But on the flip side of what I'm saying, if Duke, if they get in a 4th and 1 or 4th and a half a yard on their own side of the 50, they should go for it. For us, if it's 4th and a yard and a half from our 40, you punt. You punt. Let's see that offense march 80 yards down the field.
Yeah.
Do not make it easy on them by creating a situation in which you shoot yourself in the foot with a turnover or turnover on downs. Trust your defense. It has shown you the last couple of weeks as it's given up 13 total points to opposing offenses. 7 of those were on a kick return, 7 other points. This is another offense that's coming to town that isn't exactly dynamic, and dare I say that's even the case if Riley Leonard is Duke's quarterback. It's not like they were dropping 35 a game when he was their starter anyway. It's just that he's a dual threat in a way that Beelan is not.
He's a dual threat, and he will make good decisions repeatedly in the middle of the field. He likes the intermediate routes. He's very efficient there. If he plays, Duke's offense is upgraded, but you're right, it's not a prolific offense even when he does. They just have more options.
Yeah.
And obviously, all teams struggle with a quarterback who's mobile. All teams struggle with a quarterback who can run, but this kid can really run because he's a big, strong kid, and he'll break tackles, and he's not afraid to do it. So we'll see, even if he plays, is he that guy? Is he the guy that everybody raves about, who Duke runs their offense through with the RPO stuff? In the run game, they RPO off of every one of their lineups, basically. So he's the one pulling the trigger on that and deciding whether or not to keep it himself, and he does a lot. If he plays with that high ankle sprain, you have a hard time imagining that he's anywhere close to the complete player he normally is. And so I'm not as concerned. Now, he is a better passer than their backup.
Yeah, correct.
But I'm not as worried about it if he's stationary. If I know where he's going to be, I don't worry about it. If he's able to run around, changes the game.
Yeah, agreed. The mobile quarterback thing, too, we've gotten a hell of a lot better at that after the Boston College example that we all point to. Oof. We handled Jaden Daniels in the second half of that game, and he's the most dynamic running quarterback in football that most teams are going to see on the schedule. So I think, by and large, we've done okay against the mobile quarterback. Tonight is just about not taking your opponent lightly, staying where you need to stay, playing discipline. We've gotten better at that since the bye week, but continue it. Just make it a thing that's what you can hang your hat on before they kick the ball off next week and the week after. Last year we knew before the ball kicked off in any game we were going to be able to run the football. Period. We were going to.
Yeah.
Counter was the play that we ran most of the time, but you knew when we got off the bus we were going to be able to run the football. Well, how about when we get off the bus before this game and Wake and Pitt and the subsequent ones, we know we're going to play good defense. Do it again today, and that trend begins, and perhaps you can start to expect a good performance out of our defense instead of worrying about that what-if that happened at Boston College or, say, the first half against Clemson.
Take a look around at scores that were played earlier today within the top 25. Air Force leading Navy, and that game actually just went final 17-6. They beat Navy. Oklahoma survived a scare against UCF, 31-29. They stopped a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, it was a trick play, too.
Yeah, trick play.
Good old Gus.
Good old Gus. And they nearly recovered the onside kick. But anyhow, Florida State wins and keeps their streak alive. They're 31-29. They're 7-0. Ohio State beat Penn State. What else is new? That's every year, 20-12.
Very impressive game for both sides.
There was one player on that field, right? Marvin Harrison Jr.,
correct.
who is unstoppable. Everybody else just looked pedestrian. But, that result is the same result every year. If you're a Penn State fan, just as an aside, you got to be so frustrated. Franklin never beats Ohio State, never beats Michigan. Just that's what he does.
What's interesting, he had 7 in a row for Ohio State now over Penn State.
Yeah.
First half, first couple of drives for Penn State. Seeing as we have a night kick, I'm able to watch a little bit of that new window. Penn State's running the ball successfully, and they just force feed it through the air. And it's just,
sense.
okay, all right, man, if that's what you want to be about, that's why you lose.
So later on, these games, within the top 25, Tennessee is out in front of Alabama, 13-7 in the second quarter there. Missouri leads South Carolina 21-0. Tulane leads North Texas 14-0. Minnesota, Iowa, boy, you could not pay me to watch that
2-0?
3-3.
Okay, all right.
3-3. That's probably going to be the final. 6-3 will be the winner.
Where is Mizzou, South Carolina? Is that in Columbia or is it in
It's in Missouri. Yeah, it's in Columbia.
think-
No, not Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, do you think Beamer broke his other foot?
I'm curious as to if this is a game where they're responding to him rolling them under the bus after last week's game. Texas.
Any other guys from the portal that want to come down here?
Texas leads Houston 14-0 in the first quarter there. They're getting ready to start the second quarter. So later on within the top 25, Utah, USC, Washington, Arizona State, UCLA, Stanford, and obviously we got some ongoing games that I'll keep updating you on as it warrants. So that's just a look around. The reason I bring that up, obviously, is Florida State now. We get into the second half of the season. Florida State is, and every team that's in the top 10 is kind of auditioning.
Yeah.
And, we'll see a lot of like records at the end of the year, and you want to know what differentiates you from everybody else. Some people will remove themselves from the discussion with losses today, like Penn State. Others will obviously play a certain brand of football, and you'll decide whether or not they belong in that top 4. Tonight, hopefully, Florida State plays well enough to get it done. And, yeah, it'd be nice to look good doing it.
If they do it in a resounding way, I don't believe that the pollsters will do this, but would the pollsters move Florida State above Ohio State? I think they should. What you're going to see on paper, if you didn't watch the game, is a top 10 victory at home. Very nicely done, Ohio State. But if you watch the game, my God, that was 1984 Big Ten football.
Well, the thing of it is, and I agree, but I never want to set a precedent like that because they've done us like that before, too. I feel like if you beat a top 10 team and you win the game.
Well, that's how Ohio State hopped us, was by beating Notre Dame.
I know. I know.
I feel good about our chances. Should we match up with Ohio State in the college football playoff? But, we got to take care of business.
Yeah, you got to beat a Duke team that, again, could uglify this game. And that's the other thing. I mean, this could get it could be a gross game. And I don't know that it will be, but Duke is certainly capable if you get only a few possessions in the first half, say 4 possessions in the first half.
Well, if you have 4 downs in your mind and chewing the game clock in your mind, if you're Mike Elko and that's your plan, I know he's not the offensive guy, but if that's what his edict is, if you're just trying to get to 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4, and you got a couple of plays, that opens up some new possibilities. It's very much a service academy style of football or an option style of football where it's like, hey, get me to 4th and 2 or 4th and shorter, and that's our pathway to possessing the ball for 35 or 36 minutes. And now there's pressure on them in front of their home fans to execute, and every time there's a drop pass or a holding penalty, you turn the crowd against the favorite because the pressure is on us tonight. That's a thing that's a little bit different for us. This year we've acclimated ourselves okay. Boston College was the one lone example where you saw us get shook a little bit.
Weird game, yeah.
But the pressure is on us. So if you're Duke, how do you apply that pressure? It's fewer opportunities. Maybe we tighten up a little bit.
In the second half.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all that is. Yeah. I would say, though, you would think Florida State, and nobody's immune to pressure completely, but think of all the veteran players on this team. I mean, think how many big games Jordan Travis has played in. If your leader has played in bigger games than this, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. If he's played in those moments and played well in those moments, you wouldn't expect him to shrink tonight. I don't. They just have too many guys that have played too much football.
No, and again, emotionally, it's a very nice crescendo that we're building to here because if this was say like the week after the Clemson roadie, time. You're just like, man, can they get up?
Yeah, can they get back up? Right.
Oddly enough, the Duke game is what we've been building up towards since the bye week. Strange. It's strange, but it's the time we live in. We weren't trying to get emotionally high for Virginia Tech or Syracuse. It's this one. And you can air it out a little bit tonight. I'm not saying that you need to take any opponent lightly between now and the end of the season, but let's be realistic.
Yeah.
In this 5-game window that we're in the middle of right now, it started with Virginia Tech, then it's Syracuse. On the other side of tonight's game is Wake Forest, and then followed by Pitt on the road. This is the one, man. If you're going to air it out, if you got game plans that you haven't broken out yet, if you're Mike Norvell, little wrinkles
you got to let it fly tonight. Yeah,
this is the one that you air it out for.
Hopefully they do. I want to talk that big picture more on Florida State. We'll look at the offense and the defense for both teams and get into those matchups and talk a little bit about where we think Florida State has the advantage. Because I know you do and I know I do too. Yeah. We both pick them. Cat's out of the bag. We've already taken Florida State. But I do want to talk about how we see that game playing out, how that script works. And then also the potential for the upset, how that would look. I think we hinted at that as well. But where those matchups could take place, where Duke might have an advantage. We'll do that next. It's Warchant Gameday live from Hotel Indigo. Back for more in a moment.
Our head coach has a taste for the finer things in life. Personally, I like to picture him in front of a fireplace, clad in a garnet and gold velvet robe, with a glass of Lagavulin 16 and a Cuban cigar. Rumor has it, Coach has a brand new Bengal tiger rug and a photo of Brian Kelly on his mantle. Now, while Coach has high-powered offensive weapons at his disposal, FSU fans need only one thing to start their game day. That's DeLuna Coffee's Blue Angels Blend. Talk about high-powered. This jet fuel in a cup will have you feeling like you can take down a 500-pound tiger yourself. 2 cups will have you wanting to boost an F-18 for the pregame flyover. Our advice, though, leave the hunt to the professionals. It doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy the finer things in life, just like Coach Mike. Trust me when I tell you, DeLuna Coffee makes for one hell of an espresso martini. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com today to find out more.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from 5-star Irish O'Fell, the wit and perspective of FSU Encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to Warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold, 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today. Hey, welcome back, Warchant Game Day. We are broadcasting live atop Hotel Indigo, a beautiful setting. Our thanks to everybody who came out here, and our thanks to all of you watching at home on Warchant TV. Always, we ask you to like, subscribe, pass it around, let others know about it, and hopefully have a good time.
I see a Gordo's cup in there. You see that?
He's got his own.
And he's everywhere, man.
Yeah, he is. All right, so what side of the ball you want to start with, my friend, matchup-wise? You got an area that you love more than another?
That I love more? Well, I love our defense against their offense. Absolutely. That's about discipline.
We talk so much about Duke's defense, and for good reason. That's what they hang their hat on. Defensive-minded head coach and Mike Elko. Yeah. One thing I will say for both teams, whether we want to start about our defense against their offense or our offense against their defense, the amount of familiarity out there between these coaching staffs and what they run are very similar. I mean, basically, and you think about it, Johns is a former Norvell disciple and is a guy that basically tries to scheme up the run and wins numbers in the same exact way that Mike Norvell does. Yeah. I mean, our defense against their offense is like our defense against our offense in practice every day.
Yes, they should see carbon copy elements of what they saw all of camp and all of when they go 11 on 11 every week in practice when it's good on good. There's no doubt about that, both ways.
The base formations are the same, and now what they do off of it's different. And because you're going to always cater to your personnel. Yeah. Florida State has more big playability on the outside. Duke does not. But how they run their offense is very similar.
Yeah, the over-the-top nature of the coverage when we do what we want to do in theory from a coverage standpoint. We're playing more man this year.
Yes.
But the games that the defensive line run up front, Adam Fuller's very good at that. I think that's the best thing he does is he schemes up twists and all these kinds of stunts that allow for a defensive lineman to come free or an extra rusher, a linebacker, or a safety. Notice that the secondary blitzes have been a lot better this year, where blitzes from the second level. They took forever to get home last season. That has been an area of improvement. Some of that is players, but then some of that is getting used to the scheme. At any rate, for our offensive line, if you're thinking about it from their perspective, they should see a lot of the twists and the stunts from Duke's front that they see all of camp. I mean, you know it. You've seen those offensive line drills. So they do one-on-one pass rush, but then the next thing they do is combination work with twists. So the guys know how to communicate with each other. That's going to be put to the test today for both sides of the ball. They are mirror images in theory. It's just that the differences are we have better athletes.
Yeah.
Our quarterback is more mobile than their quarterback. Even if it's Riley Leonard, Jordan Travis is a million miles faster than him. And then we're playing a little bit more man with a single high, whereas they're going to play two high safeties if they go by the book. Now, the question is, does Mike Elko come off of the book? Because what he saw against Clemson was that Clemson was going to crowd the line of scrimmage, and he's going to challenge Jordan to make throws on the outside. I wonder if Duke is going to come out of what they do when our offense is on the field, or if they're going to say, prove it to me that you can run when I'm in a standard set first.
That is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to say, prove it to me that you can run. I'm going to stay in my standard defense. I don't want to have to deviate from it. I don't want to have to give you the advantage by bringing people up. I think I can stop you with our big front. This is the interesting thing with Duke is they're big up front. They're very physical. I already referenced it several times. They're very experienced as well. I think if you're Elko, you don't change anything. You don't really deviate anything early in the game. Let's just see how they match up physically, because that might be the area on the field where they physically do match up with Florida State.
It's possible.
It's probably the only place they truly match up.
And that's the thing. Like, you know, I don't have the number specifically on gap runs versus zone. I mean, you got to really trust the service that's doing that. And a lot of these services they don't do a really good job of it. But what you can do is if you watch the entirety of games, which I did for Clemson and which I did for Notre Dame, anytime those two teams, Clemson or Notre Dame, wanted to run something like counter, where there's a pulling action, it's longer developing, good Lord, Duke is so quick to get in the backfield. They are so good at forcing you to run through contact to get to the line of scrimmage. It doesn't always work, but generally speaking, they get into the backfield at every level. They attack downhill, and you are hardly ever untouched when you get to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So that slows you down. It allows everybody to rally to the football, and instead of a play that might go for 6 or 7, it goes for 1 or 2. Now it's 2nd and 8. Do you want to do that again? Or it might be a run stuff. It's 2nd and 10. Would you like to try that again, Florida State? Go for it. I dare you. When those two teams ran straight at Duke, rather than a longer developing run, there was a hell of a lot more success.
Well, and that's where I wonder what's Mike's thought on that. Does he want to come out and try to run the ball, or does he want to come out and throw the football and establish that and get them going side to side in coverages? Those linebackers in particular, you can try to pick on those guys and make them cover elite level athleticism at tight end in the form of Jaheim Bell. I think Jaheim Bell is the key to this football game today. I think you get him the ball a lot this evening, and I think you tire those linebackers out, then you go back to the run. I don't think you're going to have a lot of luck lining up initially and just running the ball. We'll see, but I doubt it.
No, agreed. When Clemson had success, and again, Clemson had a lot of success on the ground against Duke. It's just that in the red zone they were awful. I mean, just putrid. But Clemson had a lot more success running when their formations were wide, spread out wide.
Yeah.
So it was easier. The running lanes were more open by nature before the snap. When they were closer and bunched, Duke, that's like you're playing right into Duke's hands. You know, they like congestion around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They live on that. So does Mike Norvell do that and say, we're going to impose our will early on? And does he try and test that and say, I understand what you think you're going to do, but we're a different animal? Or does he say, no, you know what, we're going to go, even if it's Jaheim and Kyle out there, we might spread them out a little bit wider. That way that Jordan has an easier read to make, and maybe it opens up a running lane for Jordan to take off too, which really should be a part of tonight's game plan.
You have things you have to watch for early in this game. There's a ton of things that when you walk into the stadium tonight, the very first quarter is going to give you a lot of answers as to how this game is going to get played, at least in terms of Florida State's offense against this good Duke defense. First of all, let's find out who's on the offensive line for Florida State, as I said in the first segment. Do you have your starters? Is there somebody having to play out of position? Is there somebody playing in a spot that they're not accustomed to? Without any Darius Washington, if you have any other problems, you really are up against it at that point. So let's find out who's out there for Florida State. We know Johnny Wilson is back. We know that the entire allotment of running backs are back. But will Jordan Travis be able to run the football? This is a guy that's clearly been nursing a shoulder or an elbow, something, hand. I know he's had all kinds of that left side. Does he want to run? Because it changes the game. If he runs, now you have numbers. Now all of a sudden the rest of the running game opens up. It's the exact same thing Duke wants to do if Riley Leonard plays. And I would ask the same question. Yeah. If he does play, can he run? Because if he can't, it changes the dynamic of the offense just the way it does if Jordan Travis doesn't run tonight for us.
Yeah, I think one of the unsung aspects of this game that I look forward to watching is perimeter blocking by the receivers. We are very good at blocking on the edge. And Keon Coleman's come a long way in a short period of time in that regard. Getting Johnny Wilson back is huge. He's one of the best blockers in the country. Even these last couple of weeks, you see Ja'Kai Douglas turning in a great block or two. And he's tiny. Destin Hill.
Well, there's a willingness to do it.
Kentron is willing to do it. Hakeem. You get my point. But, I don't know that Duke's corners, while they're physical, are physical enough to match up on the edges.
And I don't know how healthy they are.
Correct. Yes, that's also a good point, too.
You got to go back and look and see who's starting for them. They have 2 frontline corners. After that, it gets very weak.
It's fun. Like, a lot of this stuff we're talking about could be rendered moot because Mike Elko does something schematically that demands us to do, a counter move. But I do think you could probably test them on the perimeter first and then bring it back home to the middle, meaning quick throws to the outside. But what that does is that puts a lot of pressure on your receivers to make blocks. But again, that's one of the bread and butter things that we do that we haven't had to do a bunch this year. We saw a lot more of it in our play calling last year that involved receivers blocking.
I keep bringing it up because I don't think people necessarily associate Duke and Florida State as being very similar. But again, what they run and the coaching tree and all that stuff are very similar, both from a schematic standpoint, but also the way they want to win games. Duke throws the ball outside the numbers. They throw the ball intermediate and outside the numbers. Florida State, we made a living on that a year ago, just going over here, and then we hit you up top. We haven't done it as much this year, but the quick game may come into play today. Same thing for Duke, even with a backup quarterback, right? I would think same thing. So I am curious to see just what in the way of deviations, do we see from these two teams?
Well, you saw a little bit of deviation last week against Syracuse where there was more underneath to start the game. Is that the way that it ultimately went? No, we kind of reverted back to what we do, which is some more deep shots. Like, again, last week, if you look at the 2022 game plan for Syracuse on the road versus last week's game plan, we threw it 10 or more yards down the field last year just 3 times. 20 yards down the field, 0 times. That's a balloon. Don't worry about that.
Got a little dicey there. Okay.
That would be something if somebody floated up here to pop off something. But last week we threw the ball down the field a bunch. But we didn't start that way. It almost developed later on after we showed variety in our offense. And Mike Norvell did this last year a bunch. There's another balloon. There we go. It's contagious. But
that son has decided to take no prisoners.
Us included. I only go 2 colors, non-painted scoreboard pink from the old days of Doug Campbell, or a pasty white.
Pasty white,
Our pal Ingram gave me some coconut oil. Hopefully that's going to work its magic a little bit. But, Mike last year deviated week to week. You saw different things in the offense completely that you didn't see the week before. Is this one of those nights where there's a couple of you, oh, man, I didn't realize that Destin Hill was going to get 4 targets in the first half and we were going to run the bubble game? We haven't seen a whole lot of bubbles this year. Is tonight a night for that? We shall see. But I am really fascinated. This is one of the most fascinating seasons where you don't know what you're going to see from the offense week to week. I look forward to finding out the answer.
And again, because of the familiarity, those 2 coaches, they don't want to outthink the room, but at the same time, they know they have to adjust because they know exactly what's coming at them. Both those coaches, and they have immense respect for each other. This is low-key. And I know it's a primetime game, so maybe it's not as low-key as I'm making it out to be. But I think in terms of football geekdom, this game has, if we're rating 1 to 10, 10 being the best, this is like a 9 because Elko is awesome at what he does.
Yes.
He has immediately turned Duke around. You've seen that, when he left Jimbo at Texas A&M, you knew he was going because he wanted to be a head coach. He wanted to get the hell away from Jimbo.
They're on pace to win 18, 19 games in 2 years.
In 2 years. That's how quickly this guy has turned this around. That's how good a coach he is. And then also, on his staff, Johns, we talked about, coached with Mike Norvell. And Mike, I would consider, as an offensive guy, one of the best 10 in the country. Yeah. So you've got an elite defensive mind who's very familiar with what Norvell does, an elite offensive mind who's very familiar with what Elko's doing because we run the same defense for the most part. Now, we've had to adjust a little bit because for a variety of reasons. But the point would be everybody knows each other's schemes because they run them.
They do. But, again, returning to it about are you going to break something out, another way of putting it is we've been awfully vanilla the last couple of weeks.
Intentionally, there's no doubt.
It's been, maybe we're putting something on film to set up for tonight. But, I mean, a lot of it is just the basics. What we did in the first 4 games, we pretty much have done in the passing game. There have been some different wrinkles on the ground. We're not running counter nearly as much after the bye week.
Yeah.
We'll see what it looks like tonight. But they were even willing to do that last year. If they saw an advantage to go straight ahead, they went straight ahead. If they saw an advantage to run outside zone, they ran outside zone. It's just, what does he pick? And I love that part about watching the football game because it tells you everything that he did from the moment that they started installing for Duke. This is what I believe we can do, so this is what I'm going to call. What does Mike Norvell believe they can do against an opponent whose game? It tells you a lot about where Florida State is going the next few weeks when they play a team like Miami, that if they care, that front seven's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's going to tell you what he believes his offense is capable of against a defense that can do something about it, against an opponent that could actually beat him if he's not careful.
Couple of questions in the chat here. One of them was, very simply put, FDFC, don't we still have better players? We do.
Yeah.
And that's really why you see the point spread being what it is. 2 reasons. A, Florida State has a better team and better players. And B, says to me Vegas doesn't believe Riley Leonard's playing tonight at 14
It opened at 15 and a half.
Yeah, it opened at 15 and a half. It's 14 and a half now. So, that's what you got. Yeah, you still have better players, and you have a chance, and Mike likes to talk about this, that this is an offense for playmakers. And he says that all the time. What does he mean by that? What he essentially means is that he is going to go out of his way to ensure that the most dynamic playmakers on his team find one-on-one situations.
Yep.
If you're a great player, you win your one-on-ones 90% of the time. That's what great players do. If I can scheme a one-on-one, you got to go make plays. Or, obviously all that's left at that point is quarterback's got to get you the ball. And that's what today comes down to. It's pretty simple. Like, can we scheme up isolation, get some one-on-one opportunities in the middle of the field with a tight end, out on the edges with a 6'4" dynamic first-round draft pick and a 6'7" guy that's a matchup problem for everybody.
Yeah.
Can you do it?
Well, that's the other side of it, too, is in order to get those matchups, you'll need time. And how do we hold up in pass protection against this Duke front? We're focusing on, and that's what I did my article on this week a lot about, was Duke's run defense and how good they are at creating angles. And if you take a long time to develop a run play, they're going to get in the backfield, or they're going to at least get a hand on you so you slow down, and something that could have gone for 7 yards is going for 2. So we know that they're good there. Okay, fine. But what about their pass rush? What are they going to do? Because they'll bring games and stunts and different pressures, and Elko's very good at drawing that up. He'll show man, drop in zone. Jordan Travis talked about that this week. You got to be very alert on some of the disguising that Duke brings to the table. But how do we hold up in pass protection? This is going to be our best test since Clemson about what our pass protection looks like. There have been some breakdowns the last couple of weeks against Virginia Tech and Syracuse. Last week, there was one major one that got Jordan hurt just before halftime. Not many others other than that, but Virginia Tech, there were quite a few where you say, oh, well, you got to tighten up against a better front. If we can protect, then, of course, those one-on-one matchups become even more wide open as time goes on.
I thought it was odd. Something to take a look at here. I thought it was very strange that there was communication problems last week, and Jordan was very visibly frustrated by that, both with his receivers and then the breakdowns on the offensive line that you're describing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. They obviously got to remedy that tonight. You can't have that against a good defense who's going to be where they're supposed to be. You're going to have problems if you do that, and you'll get behind the chains, which is the whole game plan for Duke. And that's really any defense, but especially the way they want to play it.
Yeah, when he's screaming at the sidelines on the 4th and 1, I think that's about, hey, guys, we got to get organized just with what the call is. We're not lining up properly. But there are other moments, you're correct, where he's disgusted with what he sees. And it was maybe a talking point 4th or 5th down the line this week, maybe even more. We didn't really touch on it all that much. But if you see it again tonight, you're going to refer back to that moment from last week's game. You say, well, we've got a trend here, guys.
Yeah.
This is an issue. Just like last year when there was a disconnect for the NC State game, and we all talk about how during the NC State game, Jordan didn't seem to be on the same page with the coaching staff and the sideline. He was disgusted with what was going on. That happened at Wake, too. There was a precursor to that. So there was a couple-week trend where it's, hey, man, you got to settle down. And then what we saw by the end of the season was similar situation in NC State when Florida came to town, and Jordan rose above. Instead of getting down in the muck with it, he rose above it. So hopefully he can do that again and organize what it is we're doing, because Duke is going to be buttoned up and organized.
In the chat, folks want to know how that tailgate lot's looking. Pretty good, pretty packed. Folks are having a good time. It is a perfect day for football in Tallahassee. I forget that many of you are watching from great distances, and we appreciate you doing that on Warchant TV. yeah, to give you a scene here,
Outstanding.
obviously the rooftop is great. People are great. Hotel Indigo is always awesome, and you can see behind us we've got great weather, but it's going to be perfect at kickoff. This will be a lot of fun to watch this tonight. I'm interested. I love the idea of a homecoming atmosphere that lives up to it. Night game, high energy. Saturday nights at Doak, there is very little that can compete with that. I mean, it's always been my favorite when we have these opportunities when a good team's coming to town.
And it's a crapshoot, too, this time of year, about what the weather's going to be. It could be oppressive today. It is not. It's a little warm, but the breeze is beautiful. The humidity's low. Tonight, when they kick this thing off, it's just after sunset. They're going to kick off probably closer to 7:45, I'd imagine. But the weather couldn't be better tonight for football. This is the perfect blend. If you don't like it too cold but not too hot, this is your night. It's pristine conditions inside Doak Campbell Stadium. Hopefully, we match the energy of the crowd because I think we're going to be nasty as a crowd tonight. I think we're going to bring it.
Touchdown Tennessee, for those that don't know. Real quick check before we break. Tennessee is up 20-7 on Alabama. That is in the second quarter.
20 points.
Yeah, I know. How about that? 24-3. Missouri over South Carolina. Tulane routing North Texas. Nobody cares. Washington State's got a good one going there. 17-10 Oregon. Washington State 3rd and 4th. The Oregon 16. So we got a ball game in that one as well. Iowa has scored a touchdown, ladies and gentlemen. There it is, 10-3. They lead Minnesota. That maybe the race is over. They got to 10. Call it a day. Texas 21, Houston 7 at halftime, or closing in on halftime there.
Cougs.
I already gave you the scores from around the country earlier in the top 25. So that's the way it looks. We'll come back in just a moment with more of Warchant Game Day as we broadcast live from Hotel Indigo.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from five-star Irish O'Fell, the wit and perspective of FSU encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to Warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold, 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
Picture this. Saturday morning, November the 4th, 9 a.m. Game day's on your TV, and FSU has dismantled their ACC schedule to this point. They're 8-0. Kirk, Reese, McAfee, and Desmond are debating whether the Noles are going to be the number 1 or number 2 seed in the playoff, and JT13 is the front man for the Heisman. Life's pretty good, and guess what? It's going to get better, because your DeLuna Coffee Warchant bundle came in the mail yesterday. You tell your wife, I'm not superstitious, as you pour your DeLuna Voodoo Coffee blend into your new stainless steel tumbler. You add a scoop of cocoa to die for from DeLuna and mutter a curse under your breath onto the pit's secondary. No voodoo necessary for that, though. The opponent was doomed from the start. Johnny and Keon, they don't need DeLuna's help to make the opponent's life a living hell. But in honor of the 2023 FSU offense, enjoy the DeLuna Coffee Pick Your Poison bundle. Check the drop-down menu for all available options. Wake up and enjoy DeLuna Coffee today. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com. That's DeLunaCoffee.com.
Welcome back, Warchant Game Day. As that was a nice little break there. Got to meet some folks who wanted me to tell a good friend of theirs to F off.
Really?
Yeah, that was great.
Are they a fan of a different team or something?
No, those guys like the show. Their friend doesn't, so they
really?
wanted me to say that. So it was great. It was fun.
I'll bet that means he's watching.
17-13, quick update there. Oregon, Washington State, fun game. All right. So you want all of the beauty contests to go poorly.
Your boy may have a 2-team Hail Mary parlay that he played today. It's a Hail Mary. It was Washington State winner.
You picked them to win outright.
And then Houston winner. Put it together, the odds are astronomical.
Yeah, you're not going to get that one.
Well, it's 21-7. Hang on. If the Cougs score next, it's 21-14. Get that good sweat going.
Well, we'll see, buddy. I like that you were thinking that way, by the way. Houston.
Those are two 20-plus point lines. But I don't know how many teams are really good this year because, again, you're seeing Alabama get physically manhandled by Tennessee. Go figure. That's a really strange result going on right now. It devalues what the Texas win is. And you saw Oklahoma struggle with UCF today. I mean, it's not like Ohio State and Penn State. I don't even know that the defenses were that impressive. The quarterback play was awful, generally speaking.
Quarterback play for both teams was not good. I do think those two teams play decent defense, but, again, that was not an aesthetic beauty.
There's a lot of open receivers.
Yeah, it was not an aesthetic beauty. It was an ugly game today watching that one. Yeah, just go out and take care of business, and you have a chance again to reassert yourself as a team that is as locked in as anybody for this playoff. I mean, yeah, I thought that you go back to the Boston College game, and that's when the doubts began to rise nationally.
Yeah.
Because at that point,
rightly so,
understandably, people said, well, what in the world was that? And, at some point you saw that LSU's defense wasn't going to stop anybody, so it made our offensive night less impressive.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you had, this opportunity against Clemson, and you thought, okay, well, let's see what that is. Well, we were awful on offense against Clemson. And so basically the national narrative began to shift towards, well, maybe we were wrong about Florida State.
Yeah.
Thing is, I think most of the time the extremes are just that. Is this the best team we've had since 2013? Perhaps. But is it 2013 Florida State? No, not at all. It's got flaws. It's got weaknesses.
Less talented than 2014, but it's got more heart.
Yeah, and so there's that. But is this team poor? Is it unworthy of its ranking? No, it's not that either. So you got to come back to the middle. And we thought these games, and in particular the last two, would give Florida State an opportunity to go ahead and win comfortably, kind of change that narrative a little bit. And it's started to happen. Go out tonight and get a win and play well, and you will have fully transported away from that, hey, Florida State's not very good conversation. You not that you're worried about what other people think, but you kind of have to be as we get closer and closer to the committee having to decide the 4 teams.
Yeah, it's 10 days from now. Halloween is the first ranking.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is a dog and pony show until you get to late November, early December anyway.
Agreed.
But I also think that they do set their own precedents that they kind of have to stick with to a point. And so when you begin the conversation 10 days from now on Halloween night, and Florida State has blown out 4 opponents in a row, and they do have a win over LSU that looks more impressive as time has gone on. If, let's say, Clemson takes care of Miami tonight, and they continue to look like one of the better 2-loss teams in the country, then the fundamental conversation about Florida State as it pertains to the playoff is a strong one. I think we would have said at the bye week, we felt like it was 2014 all over again. The first year of the college football playoff, where every week we're asking, what gives? Where's the respect? It's not like we've done nothing, folks, but it feels like we've done nothing to impress everybody out there. We've done more than nothing. But I think, again, if you take care of business tonight and again next week, and then you could put something up on the board, on the Chiron, on the screen, that says that Florida State has outscored their opponents 156-45 in their last 4 games.
Correct.
That's how you get people to turn around and talk about you as a surefire candidate for the college football playoff, as a number 3 or a number 2 seed in the college football playoff. And I still think there are more upsets to come elsewhere. It's just about us taking care of our own business in our own backyard. This is one of the better wins that you can get all season long. So make it count today.
I had fun doing this. I like to check Florida State's game notes in the morning when they release them. Duke's game notes. I look at the two teams. We do this every week just to see if you can find some nuggets, some stats. But I also like to see how other programs frame matchups like this. So in Duke's case, obviously for them, this is a team that, by the way, is 5-1, first time since 2018. They've also started the season with 5 wins, and they've played 3 ranked teams already. So they're going through all this stuff. And then they have to note this, and it's great. This year's game between Florida State and Duke marks the 22nd time on the gridiron between the two schools. Florida State leads the series 21-0. Why would you put that in there? Like, why? If you're the game notes guy, you don't have to do that, buddy.
Have to do that.
But he had to type that out and put that in there. I went and looked and saw it. I was like,
so it says 21 in the notes? I thought it was 19. I thought we were playing for the double platinum Bohica today.
No.
Not.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That has already been achieved.
It's already been achieved, yes.
Very well.
I think the two that are removed were by the NCAA.
Oh,
and
right.
Duke rightfully ignores that nonsense.
Yeah.
And
As they should.
As they should. So there you go. Yeah, and then they get into more impressive notes, like Duke's only given up 59 total points in 6 games. Yeah, do things like that, guy. You don't have to.
No, that's the thing is they will be battle tested in terms of the kind of player that they're going to see.
Without question.
They will not be shook by what they see in the trenches, for example. They've seen Clemson. Clemson's very good in the trenches. They will not be shook by what they've seen at the second level. They've seen Clemson's linebackers.
Those are the best linebackers in the ACC.
Wow.
It's not
they
close.
are something else to watch.
Yeah.
Now, our starters are quite good, but their starters are elite of elite. And so there's a lot that Duke has already seen. They won't be wowed tonight by that. The atmosphere might, though. The atmosphere just might catch them off guard a little bit early on, especially if you have somebody making his second career start. If it's not Leonard that can go, and you have Beelan come in and he plays Henry Beelan the fourth, and it's his second career start, and it's in that atmosphere, man, you're going to have to coddle him as an offensive play caller to make sure that he can get into the flow of the game early on. But we'll see. We'll see who starts.
This is going to be a steady dose of them running the football. They're going to hand the ball off to Waters. They're going to run the ball. Now, the only element that really is taken away by Riley being out isn't the called runs for their running backs. They're going to still do that regardless.
Anyway.
They would do it anyway. It's the ability for the quarterback to keep and run and be dynamic.
Yeah.
Thielen can run, but he's not Leonard. Not even
No,
close.
he's not Riley Leonard. No.
Well, very few people are. I mean,
Yeah.
think the combination of size and speed for Leonard makes him difficult.
Long strides.
Well, you don't run away from people.
Yeah.
He ran away from Duke on that long run where he broke
Clemson.
2 tackles.
Yeah.
Clemson, I'm sorry, yeah.
But the thing is, as it goes, modern day football, there's a lot of dual threat quarterbacks out there. It's kind of more the standard than it's the exception. It used to be the exception. Out of all the teams, certainly in the top 10, who's played more mobile quarterbacks than us? And a variety of them. We played every kind. You want elite athlete, off the charts, everything? Jaden Daniels, first opponent. You want somebody who's shifty and quick and has good top end speed? Castellanos. You want somebody who's pocket mobile and if you fall asleep he can gain 8 to 10 yards? That's Klubnik. Then you face 2 large bodies in Virginia Tech and Syracuse the last 2 weeks with Garrett Schrader and then Drones the week before.
Yeah.
We've seen every kind of mobile quarterback there is. If we see another one tonight, then in the form of Beelan or Leonard, we should be more than prepared for that situation.
Yeah, and there are different types, and that's where, again, Leonard's ankle injury, if he does play, really probably lessens that threat of a mobile quarterback. He'll just be the guy that has had way more experience throwing the football. If you think about it, on the season, obviously, just the season alone, he's thrown the ball 126 times. Leonard Beelan's thrown the ball a total of 20 times.
Yeah, he had 4 completions last
week. 4 completions.
One was a shot play touchdown.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a huge difference there. And then, again, the Waters kid, I worry about. He averages 6.6 yards per carry. His backup is really good too. Well, Leonard is their second best running back when they run him,
But I'm glad you bring this up. This is something that I saw on Game Day, which we don't tune into for their insights about Florida State.
Nope.
You can tune into Warchant TV and Warchant.com for your insights about Florida State. But it's interesting when you see reputations attached to teams that are not accurate. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Oh, yes. They talked about our inability to stop the run, and I laughed aloud. Florida State is elite at stopping the traditional run game.
McAfee said that at least twice. I think it was more.
Because he got handed game notes.
Yes. Reese Davis tried to help his ass by saying, well, in terms of quarterback runs, they're 4th worst in the country, 5th worst in the country. Yeah, okay, fair.
Quarterback runs,
But if you're talking about Waters between the tackles, no, man, that's our bread and butter. We do a very good job of stopping the run, thank you.
The whole game, Tom, this is what you'll have to see. If early they turn and hand the ball to Waters, now he's big, he's strong, and he's fast. He's all of those things.
He's committed.
He's really good.
Yeah.
All right. If you are going to tackle him, you got to bring it. We tend to, which is a good thing. You got to win that with your front 4. If you do, and you know how quick I do this, because I got a gambling mind. I'm watching those first 2 series. If Waters can't run and they can't run traditionally, this game's over.
Right.
You can go. You can turn it off.
Well, no, you can't. You'll turn it up. I will turn it up if that's the case.
I mean, I think it's that simple.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, it's a lot. This is where it's a lot like the Syracuse thing, the Syracuse game. If your defense comes to play tonight, you're going to win. Done. It doesn't matter if you sputter on offense. It doesn't matter. You could play a below-average game on offense.
Right.
If Fuller's group comes to play and does what they're supposed to do, with either a hobbled starting quarterback or a backup quarterback, you're going to win the football game. But are you disciplined enough? Are you engaged enough? Do you stay in your own gap, do your own job? All of those things. Do you do your job tonight? Because I think you're more than talented enough to handle business if that's the case. And if your defense wins tonight, it's oddly similar to Syracuse. I know that's strange because Duke gets a lot more national attention because of what they've done so far this year than Syracuse had. But I think the keys to the game are quite similar week to week.
Yeah, if you were able to run the ball here and you stop them from running the ball, that sounds like the most basic analysis that anybody ever gives about a football game, but it's really holds true.
Throw in here's a guy, and then
but I really think, again, that's this game because the way they want to play it and because our ability to stop that. I laughed aloud. I'm glad you brought that up. I just sat there and shook my head. I thought, well, that's lazy. Somebody handed you that stat, but clearly you haven't watched the games.
Right.
And I would also note that there's no shame in being that low in terms of stopping the run of a quarterback when you faced Jaden Daniels and that kid from BC.
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous. You face two of the more dynamic runners at the position in the entire country.
And you play like a bunch of idiots with Castellanos, too. And that's where, it's a third and forever and you give up a 40. I mean, that'll hurt your feelings. Now, that counts. That means that you're not apt in that moment. Fair. But if you're watching Florida State play football this year and you're watching that defense, it's not the first thing that comes to my mind that we can't stop the run. No, that's crazy.
No,
we can stop the run.
The first thing that comes to my mind when watching Florida State play defense is their ability to stop the run with the front four.
Right, yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, it's when they play back, they're going to get carved up. That's what I think. When I think about
if you're
Florida
thinking
State.
The negative, yeah.
Well, if you're trying, yes.
But they won't have to play back tonight.
They shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. Athletically, you can't possibly be worried about that matchup, I wouldn't think. Now, listen, again, there's good players for Duke and seasoned players. We keep talking about the experience. That matters. They've got a ton of experience. Yep. And these guys will, they'll help their quarterback out. They know where to be. But, we've talked about Calhoun before and what he is, and he's a good player. But these are guys that I think, honestly, they're not explosive down the field. Yep. They'll catch the football. They're physical. They're smart route runners.
Little things, man. They do all the little things.
But they're not. You don't worry about them beating you on an over route. You don't worry about them, lighting up the scoreboard with big plays.
No, you worry about tricks. The one we've been largely speaking pretty good against gadget plays this year. There was one that was missed. Virginia Tech had a double pass and drones through to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Somebody was open on the far side. But generally, we stay at home because I'll tell you what we do in camp. We run a lot of trick plays in camp. We do.
Yeah.
So the defense stays honest in that regard. You got to continue to do that tonight because most opponents that we're going to play here down the stretch, the second half of the season, they're not as good as we are. Just about all of them are not as good as we are. So what are they going to do? They're going to have to come outside themselves. They're going to have to play over their head, and they're going to have to throw some tricks at you in order to make things work. Splash plays, change the momentum of the game, play overly aggressive. So you got to be ready for weird stuff. I'd say something different if we were off the air, but you got to be ready for weird stuff.
Anytime you face a team that doesn't have as good of athletes as you, that's the great equalizer is to try to throw the kitchen sink at said team, and that's what teams are going to do to us most of the time.
It's been a long time since Florida State was in a position where we had to talk about that. Usually it's, all right, what kind of gadgets can we draw up this week?
Yeah.
We're not good enough. We can't block them. We can't do this. We're not good at receiver. But it's now completely flipped. And you're the one with the target on your back. So, again, it's not inconceivable that this is a game in the second half. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I think the scout is very similar to Syracuse. Do what you're supposed to do on defense, and that sets the tone for everything else.
Hour number 2, Warchant Game Day coming up next. In that hour, we'll hear from Dominic Robinson as well. So we will continue in hour number 2 in just a moment as we broadcast live from Hotel Indigo.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from 5-star Irish Hotel, the wit and perspective of FSU encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
A longtime supporter of Warchant.com programming and Florida State athletics, DeLuna Coffee proudly presents you the Warchant Gameday Postgame Call-In Show. FSU alumni owned and operated. DeLuna Coffee's Ed and Brett Lemmix have a combined 30 years of experience in the coffee industry. DeLuna Coffee's claim to fame is their Blue Angels blend, known as the first ever food or beverage item to be licensed by a military branch. A percentage of proceeds from the Blue Angels blend, Midnight Shift, and High Noon Lawman's blend go to the U.S. Navy Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Program, the Raleigh Foundation of Pensacola, and the Escambia County Sheriff's Foundation, respectively. For a limited time only, DeLuna Coffee's Voodoo Dark Espresso Blend is buy one, get one free. Head over to DeLunaCoffee.com to check out that deal, as well as the Warchant Pick Your Poison Bundle. From west of I-4 all the way through the Florida Panhandle, look for DeLuna Coffee in your local Publix in the Florida Locals section. You can also always head to DeLunaCoffee.com today.
Hour number 2, Warchant Game Day. Great to be with you. We're broadcasting live from Hotel Indigo. Rooftop, beautiful setting here. If you're in town, you're making your way on over. Don't forget to stop by Hotel Indigo. Get you a tasty cold beverage, get some good eats, and hang out with your fellow Noles as that lot is filling up and
It's the
looking
best view,
good.
man.
This is a great
It's
view.
the best view in town.
Can't reiterate enough what a perfect day it is for football, huh? This is ideal, and so that is the good news. Let's do a quick promo here because I think people will be interested in this.
Yes, Warchant members always save
Yep.
with our affiliates and our clients.
Sound like a greeter at Walmart. That was awesome.
Maybe I'm setting the tone. I was either going to be that or a cart barner when I'm in my 70s, so I
I
can
like
play
it.
free golf. And you got to do something this day and age.
20% off
But
of hoodies and crews.
This is for Warchant members only. So on all purchases, all year long, if you join Warchant.com, you get 10% off of Garnet and Gold purchases. That's either in-store or online. We give you a code. It's simple. But once a month, we do Warchant Days. And this next one is on Thursday, October the 26th, the day after somebody's birthday. It's 20% off hoodies and crews. 20% off of all hoodies and crews. That is for members of Warchant.com. Again, you can join today for just $1 for a month. On these YouTube shows, we have a special code. The number is code is FSU and the number 1. $1 for 2 months. You can join for 2 months for $1.
$1.
And get 20% off of crews and hoodies at Garnet and Gold on Thursday. It pays for itself, folks. It pays before you even read a word of excellence on Warchant.com.
Use the link in the chat and code in the chat, I should say, FSU1.
It's simply going to Warchant.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So there you go.
So there
Thanks,
it is.
Garnet and Gold. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we do. And I actually...
I got the N7 on.
Oh, you
today.
did. You did it. There you go. I wore mine the other day, and I forgot that it was this game, and then I didn't do it today. I'm losing. I've had.
You're meted up.
I've had cold medicine head for the better part of 4 days, so this has been an adventure. I'll have all my energy back after this big win tonight. I'll be set for next week.
That's right, yeah.
Hopefully so.
Well, you're going to be set for the postgame show. You're filling in, right?
No, I'm not doing anything in the post-game show, buddy. That's no chance. That would be the silence would be on the other end. That's what you'd get.
And the Noles.
Yeah, no. I'm surviving the pregame show. That's what we can do. And I like this. I love this setting, and I get to work with you, and I like talking about Florida State football. So.
Over 700 of our friends on Warchant.
Is that
TV.
right? Over 700. Nicely done, guys. Thanks for being here. We do appreciate you very, very much. And feel free, by the way. Jeff Flu game translates to an FSU perfect game. Nice, Charlie. Yeah, I'll take all the credit if we win tonight that I somehow soldiered through, did the shows, did the podcast, did the pregame show, and never felt good. Not once.
We will reflect on this day. We will reflect on this day. You can't feel your legs?
I don't know about that, but I am meek. I am meek. This would be the time to assault me. I got no dukes today.
Well, the good news
tough
is
sledding.
A little bit later this hour, we're going to educate the people and ourselves with a refresher course from Dominic Robinson on Jordan Travis game. That's coming up this hour on the pregame show. We ran about a 30-plus minute video this week with a bunch of film, but 10 good minutes of it's coming up a little bit later in the hour. If you missed it, it's really highbrow, fun stuff to look at.
I love it, and I'm glad we brought it into the pregame show because I think it's a good analysis piece, and I also think just kind of learning about the strengths and weaknesses of such a dynamic player like Jordan and what we're trying to do with him.
Ahead of a game like tonight, we're being on time, for example. Remember that. He's going to talk about being on time in that video. But against a team like Duke, you cannot be late. They are where they're supposed to be, and they are looking for the football. There are some teams that play a bunch of man, and they never turn around and find the football.
Oh, Duke
we were one of those for a long time.
That's correct.
Their eyes are frequently, if not always, on the quarterback and looking to make a play, looking to get downhill, disrupt the passing lanes. So you need to be decisive with the football. That's Jordan Travis' charge tonight.
You know, and I think Jordan's yet to have his best game. He had a great half against LSU, and he's had some great halves, period.
Yep.
But he has yet to have that game where you're like, there it is. You alluded to the Florida game last year where he was victimized early on by drops, but it wasn't his poor play, and then he just took the game over himself.
He threw the team on his back.
He was unbelievable. He had several moments like that last year. I really feel like he hasn't had that moment yet this year. It would be a good time to do it because you would do it tonight in a big game against a ranked team with the nation watching, but it would also signify that maybe the second half of the season is going to look a little bit smoother, and you'd be doing it against an elite defense, so your confidence would grow that much more. You're not doing it against Southern Miss. You're doing it against a team that is where they're supposed to be, that are very physical, that are extremely well coached.
Yeah, he's a really, really good quarterback. There's no argument about that. But it's also fair to say that I think he played sharper last year than he has so far this year. Both of those things can be true.
Well, that's absolutely true.
And you've got 6 more games to change that narrative. Starting tonight against a good defense. I get it. They're outmanned on offense, Duke is. But if you're just talking about when we have the football, this is one of the stiffest tests we're going to see all season long. And if you perform tonight and you are a dual threat weapon, I don't care if you run for 100 and throw for 150 or you throw for 300 and you run for 60. I don't care. But if you're that guy for us tonight, that starts the narrative shift towards, oh, man, here we go. Look at this. We won all those games without operating at peak, and here it comes.
Well, I say it all the time. You should have got us when you could have.
Right.
Those teams will.
There's still room for that to happen.
There. Yeah. So hopefully we get that. To your point about the turnovers, now, we all know mathematically a lot of turnovers are lucky. You get turnover luck, those kinds of things. But if you're causing turnovers, as in you're pressuring the quarterback and he's having to get the ball out quicker, your corners are where they're supposed to be and they're intercepting the football, those kinds of things, then that's a little bit different discussion about how turnovers happen. And some of this is a mixed bag, but you'll see these numbers. Since Mike Elko has arrived at Duke, they went from 108th nationally in turnover rate to number 2. Yeah. So that can't all be dumb luck.
No, it's not an accident. Again, so you watch Duke games, which is something we never did, anybody. We didn't even watch Florida State Duke back in the 90s because it would be remember it was on pay-per-view?
Oh, man.
Those were like the one ACC game a year that would be on pay-per-view. You'd have to shell out $50 for it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, thank you. I'll listen to Deckerhoff. I'll just listen to Gene and he'll tell me what happened. I'm sure it'll be over by halftime. But watching Duke games, opposing quarterbacks, at minimum, a few times a game, are thoroughly confused by what Mike Elko throws at them. I mean, it's a professional defensive mind that you're going against today. With the scheme, the design, they mix looks. You really are sure at the snap that it's going to be one thing. You drop back, you look up, you try to find your guy, and there's a defender there. And you're like, how in the hell have they done that? But every quarterback that Duke has faced this season has gone through moments. Sam Hartman has seen everything, for Notre Dame. Sam Hartman has seen everything. He looked foolish more than a handful of times because Mike Elko got the better of him. And that's why it's not luck.
And if you think about it, I mean, Duke's a 4th and 16 away from, that
from
Sam
winning
Hartman,
the football game.
Yes. Sam Hartman runs for 17 yards and they win the game, but Duke could be undefeated right now. So that's you can't accidentally beat Clemson and Notre Dame in the same season. Like, you're going to have to show. Now, they didn't beat Notre Dame, but you get my point. They basically outplayed Notre Dame for much of that game.
Yeah.
that's hard to do. And you have to be physical to do
with
it.
Duke's players. Yeah, again, and this is, we're not the only team that's used the portal. They've used the portal an awful lot. They got guys from Power 5 schools. I think 8 of their 11 starters are seniors, 8 of 11. So this is a veteran group. They play together. They rotate up on the defensive front. This is not like something where if you possess the ball, if you're Florida State, and you have it for 32 or 33 minutes of the game, that their D-line's going to wear out. They rotate. They're fine up front. Yeah. It's that middle level that I think we can take advantage of. I'm not so sure what they are at corner, but I know that they don't have a safety or a linebacker that can cover somebody like a Jaheim Bell. So let's go to work at that point.
Yeah, I brought that part up too. I basically said that I think that's the matchup you want to exploit over and over again. Their linebackers trigger well in the run game. They'll come up and hit you. They're very physical. They're physical up front. The defensive end's a very good player. They have a huge defensive tackle that's going to play in the league as well.
Yeah.
It's rare that we would ever talk about Duke having 2 or 3 guys on a defense that are all going to the league, and they do. And so that's kind of different. I like their linebackers against the run. I don't love them in pass coverage at all. So, again, to your point, exploit that.
Yeah, well, and their scheme is Mike Elko is just a really good coach. I don't know how many times we can say that in a 2-hour pregame show, but the reason that if you're nervous at all today, it starts and ends with Mike Elko and what he is and what he does schematically. That defensive front does all kinds of weird stuff. Let me give you a weird example. It's hard without a visual to see it. But they've got to play against Clemson, where Clemson is running to the right. And they have an edge rusher or a linebacker crash across the backside. They make a tackle. And you think, well, if the quarterback keeps it, he can run for a mile because this guy's like Lorenzo Featherston. He's just crashing downhill. No, Elko has something accounted for it. Their defensive tackle on that side loops out to take the quarterback. Like it's just weird stuff. He's on that next level. It's why he's going to be one of the hottest commodities in the coaching market this offseason, if not before the offseason. Maybe next month you hear about Mike Elko as agreed in principle with somebody, but there's a reason for it. He has this team at Duke playing completely over their head, but they're also one-sided. They don't have much of an offense. So show up, play defense.
Well, without Leonard especially. That's the whole thing. They need him because he's a good runner, and if he was there, you'd maybe see a little bit different-looking offense from this team. Not elite. It would just be different-looking. I agree with that. It's kind of fascinating to think of the possibilities for him. I know this isn't Duke radio, but they've got to be nervous as hell because they've made a concentrated effort to try to get better at football, invest in football, change their stadium, change the way they view football as a program.
He's too good.
Well, he is. I mean, if you think about it, he won 9 games in his first year. I mean, that is shocking to do at Duke, and now he's got him ranked in the top 20. So that is a dramatic turnaround, and they are going to lose him. And I know that this is a concerted effort because Duke has talked about it openly, trying to get this program to be viewed differently, right? And they love the fact that he's a defensive-minded coach and they're physical and all those things. But you can't be surprised when he's named the next Texas A&M coach and Jimbo gets fired at the end of this year. That's, I think, what's going to happen.
Yes, there will be a bidding war for his services. I doubt that Duke comes to the number.
Well, you're not going to outbid Texas A&M.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's if he wants to go back there. Now, I don't know if he liked it there, but, I mean.
But the question is, how good are their corners? We don't know yet. It's not like, because Clemson's wide receivers
they also got an injury at corner, too, that we don't know.
They do.
We'll see.
But Clemson's wide receivers opening night, a couple of those guys got hurt, and then remember, you talked about it, they've got a couple freshmen.
The freshman's really
ranks.
good, yeah.
Right. Well, that had not happened yet. So perhaps Clemson's best receiver was on the bench for the opening night of the season. Probably so. Notre Dame doesn't have any. It's not like Northwestern has any, or name anybody else on Duke's schedule that they've played. Can our receivers, we expect Johnny to be back tonight, that has been widely reported all week, and Keon, what if they make an example out of Duke's corners? What if they do that? Then this game turns into a blowout that we couldn't have envisioned. If Florida State has success shooting the ball down the field, 15, 20-plus yards, just doing what we do because Duke is leaving their corners on an island. If that happens, the running game is going to open up by default. I feel like we're almost assuming that cannot happen based upon Duke's exceptional numbers as a pass defense, but I don't know that they've seen a test quite as stiff as the one that they're about to face today.
Yeah, so when we look at those guys, you'll hear the names Blades, you'll hear the name Rivers, you'll hear the name Johnson, you'll hear the name Pickett, Joshua Pickett. Mm-hmm. So these are the guys we're talking about tonight. When you listen for those names and you're looking for names on jerseys and all that, those are the guys you're talking about. There's a chance one of them doesn't play. Kind of pulled a hamstring late in the game against NC State. So that hasn't really been announced yet. It's a big deal because they don't have as much depth at that position as a lot of other schools. You can imagine that's the case as you try to build a Duke program. You're not too deep everywhere. Their starters are fine, not elite, but fine. you get into that second group, it could be something that Florida State really exploits.
Yeah, agreed. And if Florida State is able to do that, which is, what would you call it, like the first part of our passing offense right now is deep balls, one-on-ones? If you're going to leave us on one-on-ones, we're going to take shots.
Yeah, it's a fallback for sure.
But if you can hit that, then out of nowhere, they've got to lighten up over the middle of the field, and you should be able to run the ball. The question is Mike Elko going to play us straight up out the gate? And if so, how do we attack that? What do we look like? Or do we? And the easiest way to talk about that is when you're in the stadium or watching on television. Are there a lot of people around the football when we snap on our side of the ball, or are we spreading it way out? I'm fascinated to see what Mike Norvell thinks is the best course of action for tonight.
We both want them to spread it out and throw the football.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for a while now. I think that when you have these kinds of dynamic athletes, Keon Coleman is going to beat almost anybody one-on-one if he gets enough opportunities. Johnny Wilson's 6'7". He doesn't have to run past anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's open because he's 6'7".
I think if you spread them out, because Duke likes to congest the middle and confuse you over the middle. Okay, well, how can you minimize what Elko can do? If you spread them out, the reads for Jordan over the middle should be a hell of a lot easier, right? One would think, like run, pass, where to go with the football, all that stuff.
Will Jordan commit to running the football? If Duke ends up in man somehow, and we do force them because we're having success early in this game, let's say running the ball, whether it's conventional run or if it's, obviously Jordan's legs, whatever it might be, can you then exploit that as well and get a lot of opportunities with their back turned because of that man coverage? Mm-hmm. That would be obviously ideal. But I don't know Jordan's health in terms of the run game right now, whether he's willing to do it as much and kind of, because that's when he does take over games.
Yep. If this was Wake Forest tonight or Pitt, I wouldn't worry about it. But since it's Duke, I think if you can, you must. If you can, you kind of have to tonight. Like even if it's a gain of 3, I mean, it could be 2nd and 7. He keeps it.
No, it's just a numbers game. You're introducing a math element.
But now they got to think about it. Now they at least have to think about it.
Yeah, they got to respect it.
Yeah, because he'll do it around the goal line. He'll sniff a touchdown out now, or if he gets in 3rd or 4th and short, he will run the ball to help us move the chains. Like that was one of the hidden plays of the game against Clemson in that second quarter. Was the 4th and 1. He had to break like 3 tackles to get the line to gain and keep the chains moving. If we get stopped on downs there, the game might be over in that moment. But so he will do it in situations where you got to have it. But I think on 1st and 10, you might need it today a little bit more.
Also, Mike calls it that way. Have you ever noticed that? When Mike will tell you what he thinks of an opponent by how much he runs Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, if he has a lot of respect for an opponent, he's going to come out running Jordan pretty early because he's trying to win that numbers game early to change everything about how they play their defense. And it's fun to watch him do that. I always know, like against Syracuse and against Virginia Tech, you're like, okay, you don't respect this team at all. I
find that interesting when it comes to like messaging in the locker room. Like, I wonder if there are any external issues that could come with that. But if you're just playing more guys, I get everybody's happy at that point. Like for example, the defensive line rotation. Are we going to see, Byron Turner and Gilbert Edmond and Briggs and Malcolm Ray? I mean, these are all good players, but are we going to see them as often tonight as we did against Syracuse?
I think you'll see Malcolm Ray, man. He is a big part of what they do right now. I mean, he's productive.
He is.
It's not just that he's in the rotation. He's making plays.
Yeah.
He gets his big paws open, bats passes down. He's really stout against the run.
You notice him. Yeah. There are times you don't notice guys, and that's okay. But Malcolm is making a splash play or two every single game.
I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of Briggs and those guys because they've had to play a lot more snaps than we anticipated playing.
Well, then, let me change the question then. Do you see more of DJ Lundy, Omar Graham, Byron Turner, and Gilbert Edmond early in this game, as much as you did for Syracuse and Virginia Tech?
You might see Lundy because this is a run-heavy offense. So for Lundy,
but they will do wholesale 2-man package substitutions with the linebackers.
Yeah, I don't like when they do that, but I understand why they're doing it to some extent. But I would say this: if you're going to put Lundy in, because you want to utilize a facet of what he does well, this is the game.
Correct, and they do say that our 3. Like when they talk about the linebackers, they say, we've got 3 guys that we really like. I mean, they do message that there is a drop off between 3 and 4.
I know that drop off between 2 and 3, but.
They think it's 3, but they substitute aggressively. My point is, will they continue to do that tonight? Because that will tell you, again, like if it's 3rd drive of the game, and let's say that Duke has gone 3 and out the first 2, and it's not like our defense has been on the field for 12 plays.
Right.
And you see Turner and Edmond rolling off the sideline, and they're starting that 3rd drive. That tells you again that, man, they are just going to be super aggressive in their rotations, and they don't think much of what they're going up against.
I would find that fascinating. I will say this, who's ever in the game tonight better have that chin strap buckled because this is a power team. They'll run outside zone, obviously, and inside zone, but they use every element of the running game. I mean, I've seen some crossbuck from Duke, Tom. This got me excited
Crossbuck?
watching. I know this is before your time. I'll draw it up for you, buddy.
On a rotary phone, I'll call
you. They have veer, they have crossbuck. They'll run it straight down your throat. They'll run outside zone, inside. They do it all. It's fun to watch them scheme up the run game.
A win for them, again, is like a 4 or 5 minute drive. Even if it doesn't score, you could have a 4-minute drive. You start at your own 20. You get to the plus 47, you punt, you're like, that's a win.
Oh, it's a huge win.
Yeah.
You're shortening the game. That's really all of this. Do you stop the run early? I jokingly said, but I'm kind of serious, last hour, if Florida State lines up traditionally, just is able to stop the run with the 4-man front, Duke is in huge trouble. The game is over.
Yeah.
They have to be able to run to make this a game, other on the offensive side. Now, the defensive side, obviously, they can stifle what Florida State does and hang around because of it. But I'm just talking about having success offensively. It is all centered around that Waters rushing attack.
What's your level of concern in this game? We're breaking it down. We're getting into the weeds, but just to pull back for a moment. As we're sitting here, we're overlooking the tailgate lots. They're full. You can smell the smokers.
Yeah.
And I don't mean people with cigarettes. I mean like the delicious grills.
Yeah.
I don't feel all that concerned, and I wonder if that's a problem or if that's the right feeling.
You'll find out, man. I think if you're talking about the way you view a game as a fan, I think this is a game where you're going to test your patience. The players are going to be tested as well from a patient standpoint.
Yeah.
Mike will have to be patient. And then I think as a fan, you're going to have to be patient because I think Duke will have some success defensively against Florida State's offense in the first half. I think they will. I think they get worn down as the game goes on because Duke's offense isn't coming to the party and is not possessing the football for as long as they need him to. Where I will get immediately worried and where everything changes, and I think it's true about the way you feel about this game, if Duke runs the ball successfully in the first half, buckle up. We got a problem. We got a real problem on our hands.
That would be unforeseen and unfortunate.
If that happens, you've got a real problem. And they'll be more committed to doing it, Tom, than anybody we've played.
Yeah.
Meaning, because they know who they are. I mean, that's how they have to win. They don't have some magic tricks that they can pull out and be like, oh, well, we're just going to spread Florida State. Florida State. No, they can't.
No,
they got to run the ball.
I recall one of the greatest coaching performances I've ever seen, and this is an offensive coach. I bring this up a lot, but I think it was the 06 season. If not, it was 2009. But it was Steve Spurrier, South Carolina, goes on the road to the Swamp, and they play the Gators. And it comes down to a field goal at the end. They have it blocked at the very end.
I remember the game well,
It might have been 13-10, something, 16-13.
It was annoying. I thought they were going to get the win.
I was happy because it was Urban. I was actually rooting for Steve in that
of course,
situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But everything was near the line. Like Steve he went minimal. Everything is minimal. Everything is close to the line. It is ugly football. And you know what he wants to do. He wants to go 4 wide and show you how smart he is and just air it out and have fun. That's how the choke-a-doke happened, was he was arrogant in that situation.
Just kept throwing.
He said, all right, we're basically almost in goal line the whole game. And every 2 to 3 yard gain's a win. And if we get to 4th and 2, I'm going to get it here. We're going to continue, shorten the game. We're going to go for it. I mean, it was just masterful. And it was, I'm outgunned. How do I get around the fact that I am woefully outgunned?
Yeah.
And for Duke, I think that's the approach today. Is we're outgunned.
Yeah, but we can run the ball. We're physical. We're smart.
5-minute drives
We've played a lot of football.
Wins.
I've got a ton of seniors.
Yeah.
They're not going to freak out when they come out here and see Florida State's athleticism.
May have to be in 4th and 2 a little bit and make a play.
And nobody's comfortable in 4th and 2, but there's a difference between being uncomfortable and then also being defeated.
Yeah.
Like they'll just be uncomfortable. They'll be able to, if you're running the ball at 3 yards a clip, then in a weird way, that's a success for Duke.
Right.
Like if it's 2nd and 7 and it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, they're fine with that. Florida State's got to win on 1st down and get them 2nd and 11, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. You do that
make it 4th and obvious to punt too. Don't make it a decision, because I mean, if I'm a Duke guy playing this game, we've got to do all these extra little things in order to overcome the gap. It's possible, guys, but it's unlikely. But we've got to be able to achieve these things and go outside of our comfort zone in order to go on the road and get a win against a team like Florida State. I don't know that they can do it, but I think that's the path to do it, is you've got to be extra aggressive in this situation.
The only thing you worry about is, again, that familiarity. So they know exactly what we're going to do. We know exactly what they're going to do. Now, you would say any given week, coaching staffs spend hours and hours and hours looking at what teams do, access to tape. They see the coaches' film. They know what a team wants to do. But in this case, it goes back much further, obviously, because of the shared ties. And so I think there's some elements to this that are unknown.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do to differentiate what it is he already knows that Elko knows about us, and we already know about what they do, right? Because, again, they've had some coaches on the staff with Norvell that go back.
We've got two people to thank, the C-Gap Blitz podcast. There
Nice.
you go. Nicely done. Way to plug the pod. The pressure is on us, says C-Gap. The pressure's on us, but he looks forward to seeing how we handle it, and he loves the show. So thank you very much, C-Gap. We appreciate you. And then Z-Chan, the official DMD of Warchant TV, he says he's not going to make it today to Indigo. Many have, though. It's okay, Z-Chan. It's a packed house on the deck.
I saw him last night at Corner Pocket.
I didn't. Where was he?
He was there.
Oh, sorry, Z-Chan. I apologize. But he says, let's slap the Devils back into church tonight. There you go. Well, you could do so at the line of scrimmage. That would be where it would start tonight.
Shut him down on first down. You get second long.
First down, both ways. First down is a
huge.
big down tonight.
We've been bad on first down. This year we've made up for it because we have a Keon Coleman and a Johnny Wilson and a Jaheim Bell and a Trey Benson, and we find ways to make up for it. But we haven't been efficient on first down all year. I don't think it starts tonight, Tom.
You don't think so? Okay, see, I think this is the difference. This is why we sound different all week.
Yeah.
I think we can lean on them a little bit straight ahead. I think we have that in us. Yeah, I do.
You have a higher opinion of this offensive line than I do.
Well, I have. My opinion is that they're figuring out what they can do, and they're not going to bang their head against the wall trying to do something that they know that, unfortunately, in a perfect world, they want it to be a part of their offense, but they can't run some of those things. So now it's just about straight ahead runs.
I hope you're right, and they do a good job of adjusting, and Atkins is a great coach.
And they've surprised us before with that. Last year, Clemson is a good example. You're like, well, how about that? They brought it.
It was impressive. So I'm not going to say it can't happen. I just think there's some physical tools there that are lacking up front, and that's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
Well,
when you're not asking your guys to be agile and, watch your first step, angle your second step, where's your hip on your, all those, where's, if you're the trailing puller, all right, watch his hip. Instead, you just say, hey, the guy across from you block and you push back. They're a little undersized as a defense. That's the one thing that they don't have going for them at Duke. So I'm interested to see. We might throw it first to set up the run, but if we do run first, I think if we keep it simple, we can lean on them a little bit and have a little bit more success than you're expecting. We'll see.
Yeah, I picked us to win the game. I think as time wears on in this game, Florida State's too dynamic to be held down throughout the evening. I just think that early, get back to testing your patience and talk about how patient can you be if something's not working early on.
Yeah.
And I'm talking not just about Mike as a play caller, but I'm talking about Jordan.
Yep.
Because
totally.
Jordan gets greedy and gets frustrated.
Well, this is a little things game. That's part of the acronym, but this is a details game. It's about being decisive. It's about not taking chances or being greedy. Just play within yourself. You should be able to handle business tonight if you do that. But what Duke wants you to do is press, because they will live on that. They're not a defense that tries to just get off the field. They want to take the ball away. There's a difference in the mindset.
We will have our Dominic Robinson feature coming up here in just a couple of seconds, so we'll take a break. We'll come back with that. You'll listen to D-Rob breaking down the X's and O's. It's a really insightful video. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. We'll have a play here live at Indigo as well. So more Warchant Game Day in a moment.
Our head coach has a taste for the finer things in life. Personally, I like to picture him in front of a fireplace, clad in a garnet and gold velvet robe, with a glass of Lagavulin 16 and a Cuban cigar. Rumor has it, Coach has a brand new Bengal tiger rug and a photo of Brian Kelly on his mantle. Now, while Coach has high-powered offensive weapons at his disposal, FSU fans need only one thing to start their game day. That's DeLuna Coffee's Blue Angels Blend. Talk about high-powered. This jet fuel in a cup will have you feeling like you can take down a 500-pound tiger yourself. 2 cups will have you wanting to boost an F-18 for the pregame flyover. Our advice, though, leave the hunt to the professionals. It doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy the finer things in life, just like Coach Mike. Trust me when I tell you, DeLuna Coffee makes for one hell of an espresso martini. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com today to find out more.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from 5-star Irish O'Fell, the wit and perspective of FSU Encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
But he has to see a guy open. He's not throwing guys open for the most part. Now, there are times, and we're going to show some of those. There are times where he'll cut it loose, before a guy's open. But there's multiple times, as you can see, there's a consistent pattern of the guy's open, and then was one tick, and then he releases the ball. And again, against faster defenses that are schemed up really well, that becomes an issue. Okay. So this was a pre-snap issue. Now, those other ones were usually happen post-snap. This was pre-snap. Okay. So you can see the concept that they're running. This is called smash. That's with a corner by this inside receiver. And then you usually have an underneath guy running a hitch or a flat route. For some reason, the back doesn't release to the flat down here. So you end up with a 2-on-1. Okay. You can see that the reason why I had these guys circled at this start of this was he's got to recognize he's got too deep. He's got two high safeties. They're in a quarter shell. So I most likely have got to work the field here if my back's not releasing to the flat, because I'm going to have a 2-on-1 down here at the bottom with my tight end. Mm-hmm. The tight end releases. It's clearly a 2-on-1, and he's looking at it. Right now, he's got to flip his eyes to the field and find that corner, because at this point, it just becomes a high-low on him. He's clearly taking the high. So you throw the ball to Johnny right here, and, we live to see another day. And this, again, is the dichotomy of being a Jordan Travis fan and watching Jordan Travis play. He tucks it. It's a phenomenal run. But what happens is these guys got to block for much longer than they're used to blocking. And one of them decides, I'm going to just grab onto this number 38 right here. And that gets called. You get hit in the head, but nobody cares that you got hit in the head, because number 38 got held right here by number 70 out in space where he shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And that is the danger of not getting the ball out on time. And all that was not getting it out on time because of the pre-snap read. All right.
I do want to follow up with one question, because people ask about this a lot, be it on the boards or social media. A lot of times in our brains, Dominic, you think about a quarterback standing tall and being quiet with his body and maybe his lower half as he's making some of these throws. And then Jordan's motion sometimes has a little bit of a hitch to it. It almost looks like a hop. Now, again, clearly I'm a layman when I'm asking you these questions. What is that evidence of to you? Does that concern you at all as you take a look at his tape with the hitching that he's doing before he's letting go of the ball?
So what I saw was exactly what I spoke about earlier, which was either lack of conviction in his pre-snap read, which was the last play. What he saw pre-snap, he didn't believe it. And then post-snap, having to see it to confirm instead of just trusting himself. And again, I think a lot of that comes back to, does he have good footwork? Yes, he's a freak athlete that has good footwork. It's more a result of mentally not trusting and believing what he's seeing or what he believed was going to happen. So he wants to confirm. And I'd love to get to know him a little bit better, because a lot of times this is a result of actual personality traits. Some guys just have a natural personality to confirm. Coach, are you sure you want us playing this coverage? Coach, are you sure you want me doing this? Coach, they confirm everything. So other guys are like, Coach told me to jump off a cliff, so I jump off a cliff. And so Jordan may be that guy. He may be a guy just personality-wise that likes to confirm.
Okay,
and so that's what I'm seeing in his play. So this was the play of the day, obviously last week, and maybe the play of the year. This video is going to be shown 1 billion times, and it's going to be on Keon Coleman's highlight for when he gets drafted in the first round this year, and we're going to see it 1 billion times. But it should have actually just been a catch, throw, touchdown, 49 yards. And here's the reason. You can see that Jordan takes 3 steps and a hitch, which is fine, and then he pauses for just a split second. Well, when he does that pause, that allows the DB to recover from being absolutely beat. He's got a spin. Does what they call a baseball turn. And if that ball is on him, Ford catches that ball and he runs away from the guy. Well, he ends up making a phenomenal catch. And this is an even better view of Jordan here, where you can see that he sees that he's open. He sees that he has one-on-one. Here's 1, 2, 3, hitch, ball, should be out. And it's just a little bit late. But you also can see that's an absolute laser.
Yep.
Like, there's no lack of arm strength there. And it's really not in a bad spot. You probably don't want to miss that high over the middle. But that's a ball. But the problem is it's just slightly late. And this is consistent. It's just he sees it, he confirms, and then he lets it go. Instead of trusting what he sees and then just cutting it, letting it rip.
So the short answer to the question would be, no, he doesn't have poor footwork. It's just about the conviction to let it go, to cut it loose.
That's it. Yeah, it's just a mental thing of believing what he's seeing and then letting it rip.
If you're getting a little uncomfortable, everybody, this is just when you're graded against the elite scale. These are the kinds of conversations that are had in the meeting rooms. Dominic's been in a million of them over the years. But it doesn't mean that we're changing our stance on what Jordan is. He's a really, really good quarterback and a transformational time for the program. He's the perfect guy at the perfect time and a really good player. And now, Dominic, to that point, here's a throw that you circled and said, yeah, I got to talk about this one.
Yeah, I got to a certain point where I had so many clips of him dropping dimes on the run that I decided that I was just going to leave them out. And then I got to this one and I said, I got to at least touch on this one. So they were going to throw, they were faking like they were going to throw a screen here. And then he gets pressure. So he rolls out and he's pretty much in a dead sprint. We get sticky coverage on the rail route. It's called a rail route that number 2, the slot receiver, is running after he fakes like he's going to block. And there's really nowhere to put this ball. He's on the run, escaping pressure, and you just couldn't make a better throw. And there was just no shortage of these type throws. He's so good on the run. It's better than he is on the pocket. And when things do break down, and he's not on time, which this isn't his fault that he's not on time here. But when he's not on time and he gets on the run, it's not always just tuck it and run. I mean, he throws. That's as good as it gets right here, man. And there's so many of these. I didn't want to show them all, but that was one I had to touch on.
You see a little Russell Wilson in his game in that sense?
I do, absolutely. The young Russ, the NC State, late NC State, Wisconsin Russ that went to the Rose Bowl, definitely seeing that.
Now let's talk the deep ball, because this year we documented how the numbers look. Jordan's accuracy has dipped down on shots 20-plus yards down the field. Florida State has only thrown it that far down the field a little bit more this year, but his accuracy had dipped from 45% to 30%. That was before the Syracuse game. D-Rob wants to compare a little bit of notes between what was happening last year that was successful and what we're doing this year that might be a little bit different. So take it away.
Yeah, I want to say that it's good to understand sort of the different types of deep balls that you get. You know, a lot of times teams will scheme up a deep ball based on maybe the successful run that they have, maybe a pass that they ran, a concept. Maybe you run hitches a lot, so then you run a hitch and go, and that's your deep ball. What we had done in the past really with Jordan Travis was it was always off of something that we had a lot of success in the run game, either the week before, sometimes the same week, and you know, sometimes it was 2-3 weeks in advance that we had success with a specific run, and then we would do a deep ball throw off of that. This year, we're doing a lot more of what you're seeing right now on your screen, which is isolation to your best player and giving him a shot to win a one-on-one play. Talking about what I talked about earlier, you can see this ball is absolutely on time. There's 3 and a hitch, 1, 2, 3, and it's an absolute dot. There's nothing more that you can ask from the quarterback.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from 5-star Ira Schofel, the wit and perspective of FSU encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to Warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
A longtime supporter of Warchant.com programming and Florida State athletics, DeLuna Coffee proudly presents you the Warchant Gameday Pregame Call-In Show. FSU alumni owned and operated. DeLuna Coffee's Ed and Brett Lemmix have a combined 30 years of experience in the coffee industry. DeLuna Coffee's claim to fame is their Blue Angels blend, known as the first ever food or beverage item to be licensed by a military branch. A percentage of proceeds from the Blue Angels blend, Midnight Shift, and High Noon Lawman's blend go to the U.S. Navy Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Program, the Raleigh Foundation of Pensacola, and the Escambia County Sheriff's Foundation, respectively. For a limited time only, DeLuna Coffee's Voodoo Dark Espresso Blend is buy one, get one free. Head over to DeLunaCoffee.com to check out that deal, as well as the Warchant Pick Your Poison Bundle. From west of I-4 all the way through the Florida Panhandle, look for DeLuna Coffee in your local Publix in the Florida Locals section. You can also always head to DeLunaCoffee.com today.
There we go.
Final segment, Warchant Game Day, as we broadcast from Hotel Indigo. For those of you that were watching on Warchant TV, you just saw Dominic Robinson's breakdown of Jordan Travis in the passing game and areas of expertise, areas of weakness, things that can get better, things that are really good as well. And so it's an interesting look at him because I think Jordan can be better. And it would be nice if it started tonight. I think he's got a chance to do that. The question we got on the screen here right after that presentation was, D-Rob, so glad to hear from you again. You're the best. How would you coach up Jordan to be more confident in what he sees? Well, that's interesting to me. Why would Jordan have a lack of confidence in what he's seen when he didn't almost all of last year? From Jump Street. Think about how he came out and started against LSU, and they gave him a diversified amount of looks early in that game. And that's the first text of the last football season from me to you is saying, Jordan is handling all of this, and they're throwing the kitchen sink at him. It was a huge leap forward.
He's capable. I think, what D-Rob's breaking down is that we're running a lot of different plays, period. There's a lot of drop back, deep ball shots. His contention, and Zeno, thank you for the contribution.
Absolutely.
Dominic should be on the Smash tomorrow night at 7. So what I will do is I will forward your question along. It'll be Aslan and I are tomorrow night on Warchant TV at 7 o'clock for the Smash. So I'll get that question forwarded, and we appreciate the contribution. But what D-Rob's contention is, a lot of the deep shots that we took last year were schemed up. They're schemed to be open because they're basing it off of the run, which we were successful at.
Yeah.
Or there will be, multiple weeks where we would run some facet of a play, saving something,
and then boom,
for a big moment. So you're throwing to an open guy, and it's something that you're repping in that sense, rather than it's the one-on-one. This offense is designed to be for one-on-ones.
Yep.
Which means that you're not going to be wide open. You've got to throw a guy open. So you're asking something different out of the quarterback. It's another part of the evolution in what he's being asked to do.
And it's a good way to point out that it is such a arduous process. Jordan Travis was not a drop-back passer. And then he became one. He worked his way into being able to do that. He went from just being a dynamic runner who we would scheme open and roll him out and let him have one half of the season, one half of the field to look at, and then he'd throw. He became a better passer when he started attacking the seams in the middle of the field. Pre-snap was incredible. He got really confident in doing that. And so he merged into a different style of quarterback. And that's why when we talk about the transformation, we were blown away. It is rare to see a guy. Now, all quarterbacks learn. All quarterbacks develop over time. All quarterbacks can start one way and end up being stronger in some areas than they weren't and weaker in others. But when you are not a drop-back passer in any way, shape, or form, and that is not your skill set, it is very rare that in the course of a year you watch a kid, or a year and a half, a kid go from being, all right, he's this thing here, and now he's not. Now he is this, and he is most assuredly this. He has the elements that made him great over here, the legs, but he is a drop-back passer. I've never seen it. I mean, I've never seen it covering this team. I've never seen somebody become something they were not.
Which is why,
I've seen guys get better.
There's a lot more blood and guts to the breakdown. That video is another 20 minutes or so with more clips, and I encourage folks to watch it. That's why Dominic thinks that at the end of it, if you're an NFL scout, you're not going to take him early.
Nope.
But you will take him on potential because you've seen that he has capacity to grow. The capacity to grow. And the cool thing in watching those clips and seeing that he's late with the ball is that his arm strength is not a question.
No.
A lot of the throws he has to make are after he sees it, so therefore he's already late when he's letting it go. And I told him on the video, it's almost like makeup speed. He's got makeup arm strength to account for that issue. Like last week's shot to Keon is late, the touchdown, that's wide open. Dominic contends that that's about a tick late. He should already know, and when you're even, you're leaving. But he waited to confirm that it was open, and then he threw it. He said, now against Georgia, that's a problem.
That's a real
problem. That's an interception, not a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's why we have been nitpicky about some things, because that's got to get cleaned up, and he's got to be better if, in fact, we're going to be a championship team. See, and again, I want people to understand that when you hear, at least this is where I come from, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I think it's true of most of the people on the beat, and I think it's true of a lot of our fans in the fan base talking about Jordan. Because I always get pushback if I say, well, Jordan is a good quarterback, but he's got to do this, this, and this better. People are like, well, man, he's completing 60-something% of his passes.
But facts aren't negative or positive. They're just facts.
They're just facts. And here's the other part of that. I'm talking about it by way of comparison to a championship level.
Correct.
I'm talking about what he has to be if we want to win the national championship. Not just be a good quarterback who wins the ACC, but wins the national championship. You're going to play a team where being late like that kills you.
Yeah, agreed. And I think what he's looking at it from the perspective of almost as a professional scout as well. Because we can win a national championship with Jordan Travis as good as he is today. No improvements necessary. As he is right here, right now, he's plenty good for us to win the national championship. It's just he has to be healthy enough to run it more.
Well, that's the other part.
If he can do that,
okay, that's the other part.
Because
yes.
part of the video we're talking about, versus Heisman winners. Well, Tim Tebow won a Heisman.
Right.
You think that if Dominic breaks down Tim Tebow's ability to throw from the pocket, he has anything positive to say?
Correct.
There's nothing positive to say about that. So you can win a Heisman doing a lot of different things. You can win a national championship being a dual threat quarterback that's not perfectly refined as a passer.
If you are a runner and a dual threat quarterback and you embrace all of that.
Correct.
Yes.
I think he embraces it. I think he's just a little hurt. And I think also we're calling away from it a little bit this year. But tonight is
to try to keep him
deviate from doing that.
To try to keep him healthy. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Jeff's got his wish on the classic uniforms, garnet tops, gold pants. Good. Yeah.
Marcus, all right.
I wanted to, thank you, Marcus. I wanted that to be our counter to Duke's clean uniform that they got out here tonight. Good uniforms tonight.
Yep.
Like, you've seen that Duke uniform this week?
I still haven't seen it
yet.
yet.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You should pull it up. It's gorgeous. We'll do it here in just a second.
There'll be a lot of grass stains on it. Run them over.
I hope you're right. But we get a good uniform battle tonight. You're going to enjoy that. You know how we were kind of picky about that. I like to see the way the uniforms clash. This is a good one here tonight. So should be a lot of fun. All right. So at that time, we got to kind of wrap it up.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank
Folks,
you, buddy.
you don't know behind the scenes during the breaks.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right.
You're not talking about yourself doing that. There's a difference. I'm talking about it.
It's been a tough week, but we're here. We're here. All right, so it's that time of the day. That
watch
time
along
of the
with
show.
Jeff coming
By
up
the way,
4 more hours.
We both picked Florida State early in the week.
We did.
You probably look at my prediction and think, well, you don't sound like a guy that believes that, because I've given Duke a little bit more credit in that I think they're so well coached and very, very disciplined and physical on defense. But I like us to win 31-14. I think we wear them down, and I don't want our 30-point streak to snap, so I'm going to keep it.
I think the shoe's on the other foot. Last week I talked more about the concern I have with Syracuse
and then you
the
picked
run
us to win
stuff.
45-17.
And I said 45-17 because we're going to wear them down, but it's about the test. It's about passing another test, showing that you can come outside of what you've already done as an offense and prove that you got something more to it. Yeah. And I think that's what you're looking for tonight.
Absolutely.
Is you're looking to see, can I learn a little bit more about what we are?
Can we run the ball if we want to run the ball? Do we change how we run the ball? Do we win on first down in a way that we really haven't consistently done this year? There's a lot of things to it. And I just want us to be playing our best football as we get to the end of the year. And this is another one of those stiff tests. Yeah. It's a good one. You have to pass ones like this and show growth.
And there's no excuse not to play really well tonight. No excuse. The build up to this game, like I get it. It's Duke. I get it. But let's just say that you take the name off of the ledger, off of the scoreboard, and you see the ranking. And it's a top 20 opponent that you're playing tonight. You could not have a better set of circumstances to play a top 20 opponent
to play the game,
than this tonight. Nothing really in the way of material challenges between the bye week and tonight. You have a night kick. It's homecoming.
It's loud.
The weather is friggin' gorgeous. Everybody is ready to scream their head off. You can feel it. There are some pregame shows that we have, and you can tell people are happy to be here. But all right, I gotta muster the emotion. We'll go inside.
No, people are pumped today.
People are moving around quicker. Their eyes are darting a little faster. They want to see. They want to be a part of this. We sold out on nooner for Syracuse, and it was loud then. It's going to be really loud today.
Really cool to see us not just sell out these games and the fans come back in and invest in that way. But it's always fun to compare us, for example, Florida State, and what everybody else does to some degree. It should be noted that tonight when you tune in, if you get a chance to go back and rewatch Clemson and Miami, you'll see it's not sold out.
I can't imagine it would be. I mean, that's a lot to ask for the Clemson fan base to travel
all the
60,000 people down south.
All right, I took 30. Oh, I see this, Mike.
That's Mike Bailey. I know who this is.
Thank you guys for excellent coverage week in and week out. Tom, back in 2012, we had some great dart games at Poor Paul's. That's cool.
They weren't great. He's really good. I got smoked. Mike Bailey's good people. Well, he can play.
Yeah.
He's one of those. He'll play left-handed. He'll beat your ass.
Oh man, that hurts your feelings.
It did.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
Yeah.
All right, I take Florida State 34-14. What'd you take?
I said 31-10.
Okay.
So the spread's about the same.
Yep.
We do have one more promo to get to, and this one's really cool. For those of you who are waited, this is a home game, but there is an awesome road game next year. It's, of course, the trip to Ireland.
Off to Ireland we go.
And our friends at SeminolesToIreland.com are giving away a free trip to the game. 3-night stay.
That doesn't suck at all.
3-night stay, 2 tickets to the game, pregame hospitality, the flights, like all of it. You're all set. You go to SeminolesToIreland.com/win. That's the URL on the board. SeminolesToIreland.com/win to enter for a trip for 2 to next year's game against Georgia
That's
Tech.
awesome. That is really, really cool. SeminolesToIreland.com/win. Make it happen. I was just there, Tom. I can assure you, it's a wonderful place.
Was Jack there? Was Jack Nicklaus there to welcome you?
Oh, when Aslan and I were playing on the links? No. No, he was not there. No, it's good time.
Was that a Nicklaus design?
That was not. No, that is
Seamus O'Flannery.
Yeah, from 1502 design. Yeah, it was good stuff. All right, you went 31-10. I went 34-14. We want to thank all of our friends that came out here tonight and all of you watching at home. We really appreciate it. And thanks to Hotel Indigo always. They do such great work here. It's a great place to stay.
It's
great
the best
backdrop
view,
here.
folks.
Love doing pre-games here. Jay always does great work here at Hotel Indigo. So we say thank you to all of them.
The next time we will be back here is for Miami.
Oh, man.
The next time
We'll
we're
see
on this
you all
deck
back
is for
here when we play
Miami.
Miami. Hopefully they'll be in the midst of the long losing streak. Well, they'll have beaten Virginia. Surely they'll beat Virginia.
Well, is it at home? Because they haven't had an ACC home victory
He's yet to. Yeah, he'll get off the snide. So we'll see you for Miami. Hey, be well, everybody. Go Noles. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.